In today's video, we're talking about the why of photography. There's a huge number of videos out there that talk about the what kit to use, what to take photographs of, what software to use for post-processing. And there's a huge number of videos out there on the how to use that kit, how to compose a shot, and how to edit your image to get to the final outcome that you're trying to achieve. But there's not a great deal about the why. Now, Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why, and that book was targeted mainly at businesses and business leaders. But I think it really resonates for us as photographers. In his book, he described how organizations really should recognize that it's the why that creates an emotional attachment, an emotional engagement. In that case, between organizations and their customers and their people that work for them. He describes how people engage with storytelling, and that whilst the what an organization does and how they do it is important, of course, that's the product and the service, but that's not what creates the engagement, the attachment, the emotional connection. That is created from the why. Why does the organization exist at all? I think it's that book that propagated the mass number of origin stories that came into the public sphere. You know, those stories about the tech entrepreneur who spent 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, hunkered down in their parents' garage, coding, living on caffeine and nicotine. We've all heard the story of Jeff Bezos in that early time with Amazon, in the dark, dank warehouse, packing books just before Christmas. Those stories resonate. Whatever we think of Amazon or whichever other company you want to talk to, those stories create an engagement, an attachment. And I think it's the same in photography, only we're the customers of our own actions. So the why of photography, for me, is really important. And I'm going to discuss today why it's important, and if we don't have clarity on why we do what we're doing, how that can lead to frustration, creative blockages, etc. Now, at face value, of course, photography, the why of photography, is pretty straightforward. We do photography to capture an image. Well, of course we do. And those images, I guess, if I'm being binary, either sit on the journalistic side, the recording side, recording in memory a moment, or they sit on the creative side, the creation of a mood, telling of a story. And there are, of course, some images that cross those lines between journalistic and creative. But for simplicity terms, those are the images we catch, and we all want to capture the best possible images that we can. But is that the why? If I want an image of a sunset in a mountain range, then I can go to the internet and I can find millions, hundreds of millions, possibly billions of images of a mountain range in sunset. And many of those images will have been taken by some of the best photographers who have ever held a camera. And in today's day and age, if I really wanted to, I could create that image online. Generative AI with a few text prompts is now producing photorealistic outcomes. So an aesthetic image, the most aesthetic image I can find, can't possibly be my real motivation for photography. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, I want to produce fantastic images. I want to produce the best quality images that I can. I find it particularly difficult just to take snapshots on auto, even if I'm just out in my local neighborhood, such as these streets in Johannesburg, taking pictures of the jacaranda trees in bloom. I still want it to be the best image I can come up with. And when I'm on holiday, such as here on the beach in KwaZulu-Natal, I still want to capture an image that I enjoy looking at afterwards. And when my photography is a little bit more serious and I'm out and about with bird photography, for example, I want to capture the personality of the bird that I'm photographing. And landscape photography, of course, you want those dark, moody skies, that great foreground, the subject, etc., etc. But is the ultimate image the only reason we do photography? Indeed, is it the main reason we do photography? And the best analogy I can come up with is that of the angler, the fisherman. Now, ostensibly, the fisherman's job, the fisherman's objective, is to catch the best fish they can possibly catch. The fly fisherman is after the 4-pound rainbow trout. But is that the only reason? If on the first cast the 4-pound rainbow leapt from the surface and gobbled the fly, then the fisherman would be delighted, euphoric, clamouring to get somebody to take the picture. But if the same result happened on every cast, and fish after fish after fish was landed, then I think the fisherman would get pretty bored pretty quickly. And for me, it's the same with photography. If every time we went out, the composition was obvious, the light was fantastic, the foreground was stunning, the subject was self-evident, and the background was just the perfect backdrop, then I think over time we would get bored of capturing those images. If we don't have the challenge, if we don't have the difficulties of finding the subject, of formulating the composition, of waiting for the light, if we don't have the occasional failure, then I think we'd end up putting the camera down. So why do we do it? For some, the dopamine hits of social media is a real driver, a real motivator, and who doesn't like the affirmation of others enjoying the image you have made? For some, photography is a distraction. It's a break from the everyday grind, the arguments with your partner, the constant emails and report writing of the office job, along with the politics, the daily chores, the shopping, the cutting the grass, the dirt, the pace, and the noise of the city. It's just good to escape. This is certainly a motivation for me, and one of my main whys. Getting out of the city, getting away from the hustle, the bustle, and the constantly juggling that next number one priority. For some, photography is a great opportunity to socialize, to get together with like-minded people, to talk about a shared passion with people that are as comfortable in silence as they are in conversation. For me, it's the opposite. It's a time where I can be away from people, away from conversation, discussion, opinions, a time for solitude, for peace and quiet, where I can collect my thoughts or not think at all. For some, I think it's about the kit. We've all met photographers who constantly have the latest and greatest gear, who constantly buy new gadgets, new lenses, new bodies. And whilst it takes me years to really get to know my kit intimately, they know every setting within days, and they know when to use which setting in which scenario. All of these reasons, and of course there are more. Some people have a desire to have a singular creative outlet. Some people are looking to learn and develop themselves over time. Maybe it's just an excuse for more travel. All of these reasons and more are personal reasons. And in my view, nobody has a singular reason. There are multiple objectives and aims that we all have when we do photography. The challenge is understanding the weighting, the importance of each of those against the other. Now, if your desire, your objective, your aim with your photography is to become a social media sensation, to go viral with your creativity, then, of course, your approach to your art will be different. You will compose shots differently. You will crop shots differently. You will over sharpen relative to a print. You will add more saturation to your post-processing. Now, if your objective is that social media following, then of course that's perfectly valid. But if that's not your main objective, and you're getting the nudge of that dopamine hit from the occasional likes, then the risk is that that starts to influence your creative approach. And then you have some discord, some disquiet in the system, even conflict between how you are looking to apply your creativity to your photography. If you're a kit junkie and you're out buying the latest and greatest every time a manufacturer releases a new item, and that makes you happy, that you're excited about receiving that package in the post, and you're eager to get out in the field and use that new piece of technology, then that's fantastic and perfectly valid. But if you've over listened to that YouTube influencer selling the next best thing, and you're anxious about the cost, and you hear yourself justifying why you've moved on from version 3 to version 4, then that's going to create some frustration, some anxiety. It's going to distract you from what you're trying to achieve. So, in my view, all of the reasons that we've been through in today's video are valid. There are no rights and no wrongs to what drives your creativity and what drives your passion, what you spend your hard-earned cash on and what you spend your even harder-earned time on. There are no rights and wrongs, but it's important that we understand our own motivations and we understand how they balance against each other, because in that way we can hold on to them, we can protect them, we can nurture them. And I think it's that will prevent us from being distracted, from getting frustrated that we're not achieving what we want to achieve, from being confused where we're just not sure what's missing from our experience. Holding on, understanding, and keeping in clear focus our whys for why we pick up the camera in the first place, in my view, is critical to the number one aspect of photography: enjoying the process. I would love to hear your thoughts. Has the subject that we've covered resonated with you? Has it sparked some thoughts? Please drop me a note in the comments below. I read every single one of them, and I do my best to respond to as many as I possibly can. Until the next time, please take care. Bye-bye.